First, mystery. The persistence of the soul within the physical world. One of the most fundamental laws in the Naruto universe, established early in the series and reinforced during the Pain arc, is that when a human dies, their soul traverses into the Pure Land. This is a one-way trip unless specific, forbidden reanimation jutsu, like Ito Tensei or Rinne Rebirth, are utilized. However, Hagoromo Ōtsutsuki, the Sage of Six Paths, completely defies this absolute law without explanation. Hagoromo died approximately 1,000 years prior to the start of the series. Yet during the climax of the Fourth Great Ninja War, his consciousness manifests not as a reanimated corpse, but as a pure spiritual construct capable of interacting with the physical world, levitating and granting god-tier powers to Naruto and Sasuke. The unanswered question here is the mechanism of his tether. Did he simply refuse to move on? Did he create the Pure Land himself and thus exist outside its jurisdiction? Or did the chakra he distributed into the bloodlines of the Uchiha and Senju act as a 1,000-year anchor? The series never clarifies why the god of Shinobi is the only entity in existence who can linger in the space between life and death for a millennium without a host body or a summoning tag. Second, mystery. The mathematical discrepancy of the truth-seeking balls. When Hagoromo appears to Naruto in his subconscious during the war arc, he gives him the six-path sage mode. Immediately after, Naruto manifests truth-seeking balls, spheres of malleable black chakra that encompass all 5 nature transformations plus Yin-Yang release. However, a glaring inconsistency appears in the numbers. When Obito Uchiha became the Ten-Tails Jinchūriki, he possessed 10 truth-seeking balls. When Madara Uchiha achieved the same state, he also possessed 10. Yet when Naruto receives power directly from the source, Hagoromo himself, he only manifests 9. This raises a massive lore question regarding the division of the sage's power. Did Hagoromo intentionally withhold the 10th orb? Does the number 9 symbolize that Naruto only received a portion of the power, specifically the Yang half, while Sasuke held the other conceptual half? Or is this a limitation of not being a full Jinchūriki of the Ten-Tails, but rather a pseudo-Jinchūriki containing the chakra of all 9 beasts? The series creates a hard rule with the number 10 for the villains, then breaks it for the protagonists without a single line of dialogue explaining the deficit. Third, mystery. The catalyst for the first Rinnegan awakening. We are told explicitly by Hagoromo during the war arc and through Kabuto's earlier research that the Rinnegan can only be awakened by recreating the sage's chakra, specifically mixing the chakra of Indra, Uchiha, and Ashura, Senju, Uzumaki. Madara Uchiha achieved this by grafting Hashirama's cells into his own body, taking decades to manifest the eyes. However, this rule creates a paradox for Hagoromo himself. Hagoromo did not have an Indra or Ashura to steal cells from. He was the progenitor. In the anime original Kaguya's Past arc, Hagoromo awakens the Mangekyō Sharingan after killing his brother Hamura temporarily, and simultaneously awakens the Rinnegan through the sheer emotional trauma and chakra spike. This contradicts the established mechanical requirement of mixing 2 specific chakra signatures. If Hagoromo awakened it through trauma, why can't other Uchiha? If he awakened it because he is half Ōtsutsuki, why didn't the Rinnegan manifest at birth like Kaguya's capabilities? The mechanism for the very first Rinnegan remains a unique, unrepeatable biological event that defies the rule set for every subsequent user. Fourth, mystery. The omniscient ignorance regarding the stone tablet. Deep in the Naka shrine of the Uchiha clan lies the stone tablet created by Hagoromo. He inscribed it to guide his descendants, believing that by reading his history, they would avoid the cycle of hatred. We learn at the very end of the series, during the Kaguya battle, that Black Zetsu altered this tablet. Zetsu rewrote the text to tell the Uchiha that the infinite Tsukuyomi was the salvation of the clan, rather than a trap. The unanswered question is, how did Hagoromo, a being who transcended death and watched over the world for 1,000 years as a spirit, not know this happened? Hagoromo admits to Naruto that he has been watching the reincarnations of his sons fight for centuries. If he was observing the world, he surely would have seen Black Zetsu, a manifestation of his mother's will, physically tampering with his most important legacy. Was Hagoromo blind to Black Zetsu's existence entirely? Or did he see the tampering and simply lack the power to intervene from the spectral plane? For a character defined by wisdom and foresight, his failure to notice a literal rewrite of his Bible is a massive, unexplained plot hole. Fifth, mystery. The sage's specific Mangekyō Sharingan abilities. We know Hagoromo possessed the Mangekyō Sharingan. In the anime filler arcs detailing his past, we see the pattern clearly. However, one of the most exciting aspects of the Uchiha lore is that every Mangekyō grants a unique ability. Itachi had Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu. Obito had Kamui. Shisui had Kotoamatsu Kami. Hagoromo is the source of this bloodline, yet his specific Mangekyō ability is never revealed. Did he possess the original Amaterasu? Did he have a time-space ninjutsu like Kamui? Some theorists speculate that his ability might have been the original creation of all things, or perhaps the root technique that Izanagi and Izanami are based on. Given that he used the Susanoo to fight the Ten Tails, we know he had access to the standard kit, but his unique eye power remains a total blank in the database. Considering he is the strongest character in the mythos, his unique ability should logically be the most broken jutsu in history, yet it is never used or named. Sixth, mystery. The true limits of creation of all things. Hagoromo is credited with the Banbutsu Sozo, creation of all things. This technique allows the user to manipulate imagination and spiritual energy to create physical form from nothingness. He used this to split the Ten Tails chakra and create the Nine-Tailed Beasts, literally giving life, consciousness, and bodies to pure energy. The question that plagues the lore is, what are the limits? If Hagoromo could create life from imagination, why couldn't he create a permanent solution to the Indra and Ashura conflict? Why couldn't he create a seal that Kaguya could never break? The ability is described as bordering on omnipotence, yet Hagoromo seems bound by traditional ninja problems like aging, fatigue, and death. Furthermore, did he use this ability to create the treasured tools? Did he create the geography of the ninja world? The technique is a narrative blank check that explains the tailed beast but is conveniently ignored for every other problem Hagoromo faced. Seventh, mystery. The architecture of the moon and the brotherly split. At the conclusion of the battle against Kaguya, roughly a millennium ago, Hagoromo and Hamura used the Six Paths Chibaku Tensei to seal the Geto statue, the husk of the Ten Tails, and create the moon around it. This is the accepted history. However, the logistics of this feat are murky when comparing the manga to the anime films. In the last Naruto the movie, it is implied that Hamura took the bulk of the responsibility for the moon, moving his entire clan there to guard it. But in the main series, Hagoromo is credited with the moon's creation almost exclusively. The unanswered element is the division of labor and power. If they performed the seal together, did they split the chakra cost? Later, Naruto and Sasuke create a similar seal, but they don't create a second moon. They essentially encase Kaguya in a massive rock within her own dimension. The discrepancy between the moon creation feat of the past and the sealing feat of the present suggests Hagoromo's original technique was vastly superior, or the mechanics of planetary devastation have changed. Furthermore, we never learn why Hamura agreed to exile himself to space while Hagoromo stayed on Earth. Was it a punishment? A sacrifice? Or did Hamura simply not trust Hagoromo to keep the statue safe? 8. Mystery. The Jinchūriki extraction survival exception. A hard rule in Naruto is that if a Jinchūriki has their tailed beast extracted, they die. We see this with Gaara. We see this with Naruto, who only survives due to immediate medical intervention and receiving the other half of Kurama. Yet, Hagoromo Ōtsutsuki was the Jinchūriki of the Ten Tails. Near the end of his life, he extracted the Ten Tails from himself to create the 9 beasts and sealed the husk into the moon. By all established laws of biology and chakra, Hagoromo should have died instantly. Instead, the lore states he lingered for months to ensure the tailed beasts were settled and Ninshu was established. The script credits this to the Gedo statue's life force, or his own immense vitality, but it never explains the biological mechanism. How can a being survive the extraction of the most powerful chakra mass in existence when his descendants die from losing a fraction of that power? It implies Hagoromo's physiology is fundamentally different from humans, rendering the rules of the series inapplicable to him, yet he is still mortal enough to die of old age. Ninth, mystery. The origin of Gamamaru's knowledge. Gamamaru, the Great Toad Sage, is one of the oldest beings in the series, contemporary with Kaguya's arrival. In the anime backstory, Gamamaru approaches a young Hagoromo and reveals the truth about the God Tree and Kaguya's rituals. He teaches Hagoromo Senjutsu, Sage Mode, and gives him a prophecy. The massive unanswered question is, how did a toad know about the aliens? Kaguya and the Ōtsutsuki are extraterrestrial invaders who wipe out planets. Gamamaru is a native toad sage of Earth. How did Gamamaru possess knowledge of the God Tree's true nature when even Hagoromo, the son of Kaguya, did not? Furthermore, Gamamaru's prophecy about the blue-eyed boy, Naruto, spans thousands of years. Is this genuine precognition? If so, why didn't Gamamaru warn Hagoromo about Black Zetsu? The toad seems to have selective omniscience, knowing exactly enough to push the plot forward but staying silent on the tragedies that would ruin Hagoromo's family. 10th. Mystery. The rationale behind the successor choice. The central tragedy of the Naruto lore is Hagoromo's decision to choose Ashura over Indra as the heir to Ninshu. He claimed Ashura understood love and cooperation, while Indra prioritized power. This decision sparked the curse of hatred that led to the Uchiha Senju Wars. While we understand the moral reason, the logical reasoning remains a mystery. Hagoromo, with his supposed wisdom, should have foreseen that alienating his prodigy son, who had already been manipulated by Black Zetsu, would lead to disaster. Why did he not create a dual leadership system? Why not dismantle the position of Ninshu leader entirely to prevent a power struggle? The series presents the choice as a binary. Pick A or pick B. But for a man who could create life and reshape the world, the inability to find a third option that accommodated both sons is a glaring failure of intelligence that is never justified beyond the plot required a war. 11th. Mystery. The mechanics of the first infinite Tsukuyomi dispel. After Kaguya was sealed the first time, the world was still entrapped in the infinite Tsukuyomi. Hagoromo freed humanity. However, in the war arc, it is established that dispelling the infinite Tsukuyomi requires the chakra of all nine-tailed beasts and the Rinnegan. At the time Hagoromo freed the world, the tailed beast did not exist yet. The Ten Tails was still inside him. Did he use the Ten Tails chakra directly? Furthermore, the dispel technique usually requires a specific hand seal formed by two people, as seen with Naruto and Sasuke. Who did Hagoromo perform the seal with? Hamura? If so, why isn't Hamura credited? If Hagoromo did it alone, it breaks the rule that the technique requires unity. Naruto and Sasuke to cancel the unity. Kaguya World Jutsu. The exact step-by-step process of how humanity was released the first time is a blurred page in the history books. 12th. Mystery. The lost route of the Ninshu journey. After the tailed beasts were created, Hagoromo spent the remainder of his life traveling the world to spread Ninshu. This period is the missing years of the sage. We know he gained followers, but we don't know where he went or who he met. Did he travel to the other continents mentioned in the wider lore? Did he encounter other sage regions like the Ryuchi Cave, snakes, or Shikotsu Forest, slugs? The Boruto series introduces other Ōtsutsuki ruins and dimensions. Did Hagoromo find any of these during his travels? The sheer length of this journey and the lack of recorded history from it is baffling. It suggests a global civilization that simply vanished, leaving only the ninja villages in the specific elemental nations we know. What happened to the Ninshu followers in the lands outside the 5 great nations? 13th. Mystery. The creator of the treasured tools. The treasured tools of the Sage of Six Paths. Bashosen, Beni Hisago, Kokinjo, Shichiseiken, and Kohaku no Johei are weapons of immense power that consume massive amounts of chakra. They appear in the Fourth Great Ninja War in the hands of Kinkaku and Ginkaku. Legend says Hagoromo used them, but did he make them? If he possessed the creation of all things, he certainly could have. But why? Hagoromo was a pacifist monk preaching connection and understanding. Why would he forge tools specifically designed to seal people away based on their words, or fans that generate elemental destruction? These weapons seem antithetical to his philosophy of Ninshu. Additionally, where were these tools kept for 1,000 years? How did the Cloud Village get them? The provenance of these artifacts is a total mystery, suggesting a militant phase of Hagoromo's life that completely contradicts his saintly image. 14th, mystery. The limits of his spectral observation. We return to the concept of Hagoromo watching the world for a millennium. He tells Naruto he has watched the reincarnations of Indra and Ashura fight over and over. This implies a continuous stream of consciousness. However, he seems to have huge gaps in his intel. He didn't intervene when Madara awakened the Rinnegan, an event that directly signaled the return of Kaguya. He didn't intervene when the Uzumaki clan, his direct descendants, were wiped out. The question is, what are the rules of his observation? Is he like a ghost haunting a specific location? Is he in the Pure Land watching a TV screen? If he has been watching for 1,000 years, his passivity is monstrous. If he hasn't been watching continuously, then his claim to Naruto is an exaggeration. The scope of awareness for the sage is never defined, allowing the plot to use him when convenient, and ignore him when his intervention would solve the conflict too easily. 15th, mystery. The biological versus spiritual reincarnation lottery. The reincarnation of Indra and Ashura is central to the plot. We are told they reincarnate into their descendants, Madara and Hashirama, Sasuke and Naruto. But the mechanism is inconsistent. Madara and Hashirama were born relatively close in time. Naruto and Sasuke were born close in time. But what about the gap between Madara's death and Sasuke's birth? Where was Indra's soul then? Does the soul wait in the Pure Land for a suitable vessel? Furthermore, Asura reincarnated into an Uzumaki, Naruto, instead of a Senju, proving the lineage requirement is flexible. Could Indra reincarnate into a non-Uchiha? The rules of this transgenerational possession are vague. It raises the disturbing question, are Naruto and Sasuke actually themselves, or are they just meat suits for Hagoromo's sons? Hagoromo seems to treat them as separate entities, yet the entire premise of the war is that they are destined to fight because of the souls inside them. The boundary between the reincarnation and the host is never chemically analyzed. 16th, mystery. The radio silence of Hamura. After Hamura goes to the moon, he effectively vanishes from Earth's history. Hagoromo stays behind. The mystery here is the complete lack of communication. Did Hagoromo and Hamura never speak again? With their level of power, telepathy, dimension hopping, chakra connection, they should have remained in constant contact. If they were in contact, why didn't Hamura warn Hagoromo about the potential corruption of the Earth Branch? Why didn't Hagoromo ask Hamura for help with Indra? The total estrangement of the two brothers serves the plot by isolating Earth, but it makes no sense given their abilities and their shared trauma of fighting Kaguya. It paints a picture of a family that shattered completely after the mother was defeated, a tragic element that is never explored. 17th, mystery. The timeline of fatherhood. Hagoromo lived a very, very long time. He sealed Kaguya, became the Ten Tails Jinchūriki, traveled the world, and established Ninshu. Yet, Indra and Ashura seem to have been born quite late in his life, as he is depicted as an old man during their adulthood and succession dispute. This timeline gap creates a mystery. What was Hagoromo doing for the centuries before he had kids? Did he have other children who didn't inherit his powers? Are there other Ōtsutsuki lineages on Earth that we don't know about because they weren't the special ones? It seems statistically unlikely that in a lifespan of potentially hundreds of years, he only had 2 sons at the very end. If there were earlier children, their erasure from history is a fascinating dark spot in the sage's legacy. 18th, mystery. The durability threshold of a half-god. We see Hagoromo battle the Ten Tails, Kaguya, for months. He takes hits, he fights back. But we never get a clear reading on his physical durability compared to modern characters. Naruto and Sasuke at their peak can tank attacks that slice moons or destroy meteors. Hagoromo is implied to be stronger than them. Does this mean he is invincible to anything short of Ōtsutsuki level attacks? Could he be killed by a kunai if caught off guard? The series has a habit of making god-tier characters vulnerable to simple things, like Madara being stabbed by Zetsu. We don't know if Hagoromo had a Superman body that was impervious to steel, or if he relied entirely on chakra cloaks. His physical toughness is a missing stat on the character sheet. 19th, mystery. The evolution of Chibaku Tensei. The Chibaku Tensei, planetary devastation, is the signature sealing jutsu of the Rinnegan. Pain uses it, Madara uses it, Sasuke uses it. But the Six Paths Chibaku Tensei used to seal Kaguya is different. It requires physical contact from 2 people, Sun and Moon seals. The mystery is why Hagoromo's solo usage, or usage with Hamura, created a permanent celestial body, the Moon, while Pain's usage created a temporary rock sphere that crumbled when the core was destroyed. Is the Six Paths version a completely different jutsu sharing the same name? Or is it simply a matter of chakra volume? If it's volume, then Hagoromo's reserves were astronomical, literally enough to build a moon. The scaling between Pain destroying the Leaf Village and Hagoromo building a satellite is so vast it feels like 2 different magic systems. 20th, mystery. The path to Yin-Yang mastery. Hagoromo is the master of Yin-Yang release, Onmyodan. He explains that Yin is creating form from nothing, imagination, and Yang is breathing life into form, vitality. The question is, how did he learn this? Kaguya possessed immense power, but she was a brute force combatant. She didn't seem to teach Hagoromo the nuances of spiritual balance. Did he discover this on his own? Is it an inherent trait of the Rinnegan? The series treats Yin-Yang release as the pinnacle of jutsu, yet Hagoromo seems to have started with it at max level. There is no training arc, no mentor, other than the Toad, and no struggle. His mastery is a given, which robs us of understanding how one acquires the power of a god.